future, ladies and gentlemen, of payment industry is definitely redefined. Well, but still, some characteristics remain a challenge. From fighting a fraud, which is another important aspect that we're going to talk about, enhancing the customer experience along with enhancing the security of a customer is also a challenge. Building operational resilience to prevent such kind of failures definitely also act as a challenge. But there are various aspects to know in and out. I have a super amazing, dynamic, and a robust panel coming out.
My fellow panelists have assured that it will be done that way. So be ready for a quick future preview, sneak preview into what is going to be the future of payment systems. But before that, having donned the hat of a regulator, the regulator always has a last word. In fact, Prasanna did make a mention of RBI at least 5-6 times when he made his presentation. A lot happens on the RBI. A lot is also expected out of the RBI. But let me tell you what is it, and I'll just take half a minute on this, in store for payments. This will be something like an Isaac Asimov's future perspectives. So bear with me for just half a minute on this. Imagine, before I go for the imagination, in the COVID, if there was one space where people had little difficulty, that was the payment space, at least as far as India is concerned. We could continue to do our payment transactions, whether we did it cash-wise or whether we did it digitally. Most of us in this room must have done digital transactions, and therefore you wouldn't have found much difficulty in that. If that had happened, it had happened because of a lot of benefit, a lot of initiatives taken by the fintech space, the banking, the government, the DPI. Everybody had a role to play. So what is it there for the future? Very simple. I don't know how many of you have actually started using the cryptocurrency which has been issued by RBI, the e-rupee. Prasanna did talk about that. Those of you who have used it will find that that is only the tip of the iceberg. Those of you who have not used it, don't worry, you can start using it. But those of you who have no idea to use it, for you, I think this is what is going to be the next 30 minutes of talk. The future is going to be on things like the e-rupee. Not only is it going to be e-rupee for India, it's going to be perhaps a digital currency which is going to make cross-border transactions also very easy. I don't know how many of you know, India is the world's largest inbound remittance country. As of last year, we have got more than $113 billion worth of money coming into India. Money also goes out of India. We are the largest importer of crude and other products which are required for our operations. So in a globalized world, movement of money is going to be important. Leave out the globalized world. Within India, movement of money is important. Within India, let's not talk about the cities. Let's talk about the rural areas. Let's talk about possibly areas, pockets, even in Mumbai like Dharavi, where there's a lot of funds transfer, but the money doesn't move as money. So how is that going to happen? So if the money has to move, sticking to cash is something which, at least in my view, India is not going to completely move away from cash. We all like to touch cash. We like good currency. We like new notes. We like new coins. We like to store them. We like to keep them. Therefore, currency will still be there. But the growth in currency is going to come down, and the growth in currency is going to be compensated by digital payments, and that's what is the future of payment systems. I'm not going to bore you anymore on that. I'll stop on this. I've given a sneak preview. Now, my panelists will take over. Aman represents the Catholic Syrian Bank, an old age bank with a new age approach. So he's going to talk about what's going to be the future perspectives from a banking perspective, from a CSB perspective. How is it going to touch our lives? Over to you, Aman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Ganesh, for giving this introduction and insight on what future holds for all of us. As he rightly mentioned, CSB is a 104-year-old bank, and it's a old age private sector bank, but is trying to come up the curve in terms of the future way of doing business. Payment landscape is probably the only piece which has grown exponentially in the last 4 or 5 years. I think today everybody talks about payments, right? And payments is both domestic and cross-border. Today, payments as a whole globally is in the next 3 years supposed to be about a $15 trillion economy or a $15 trillion flow of funds. And I'm sure there is no way we can stay out of it. And India has been in the forefront of getting into the payments landscape. Prasanna spoke about in his earlier presentation about UPI and digital payment infrastructure, which is very well established in India, and we had showcased that, as Mr. Joshi mentioned, in G20 also. So I think from a payments landscape, we are far ahead of what the other the other countries are doing. From a banking perspective, right, payments is actually evolving, and it is both domestic and cross-border. But as a bank, if we have to actually ensure that the customer gets seamless service, the customer gets kind of a service which is, which is across all his payment modes is connected. That is what we really want to work on. And for that, banks as a whole would need to work on a digital transformation, which is very easily said, but it's very difficult to, bring about that change, because banks normally have their legacy systems still there with them in the bank, right? So it involves a lot of siloed parts of your payments which is there in the bank. For example, you have a separate CTS system, you have a separate IMPS, NEFT, RTGS system, you have a separate DEM system. So these are all working silos. So if you want to actually get the full value or the full view of how the payments can happen seamlessly and are customer centric, we have to bring them together. And the only way we can do is through a digital transformation. And when you do that, there's always a concern about people within the organization getting rubbed on the wrong side. People have been doing the business the way they want to do it, and they're not open to change. So we have to also ensure that we are open to change as an organization, as an institution. And when that happens, only then you can bring about the change in the overall ecosystem. The basic challenge that we face as a bank is obviously cybersecurity, as people mentioned. The connectivity of different payment modes that the customer does. For example, SWIFT, which is a cross-border transaction, and RTGS, NEFT, people are not very well connected in terms of reconciliation and on that stuff. That is what we really want to work on. Customer, I think so that is what we really actually need to work upon in terms of the overall payment ecosystem. And I think I'll just pass it on to you, sir, and then we'll take it up from there.
Right. Thank you very much. That was a good way to start off. From a Catholic Syrian Bank perspective and what is going to happen, we'll now move over to Chandan. Chandan is actually bubbling with a lot of ideas, and he's now going to take the continuing journey of a bank. And over to you, Chandan.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh and Technovity for giving me this opportunity. Let me put a disclaimer here. What I'm going to say, it is not about my company's thought process. I'm not talking on behalf of the company, my Utkarsh Small Finance Bank, but rather a personal experience. The topic that Mr. Ganesh gave me today is how can a strong foundation of a payment system can take a small finance bank to a universal bank. So I think I'll say that's a long call. A small finance bank actually work in a very, very tough position whereby they are supposed to work as a small finance bank in the lending business, whereas in case of CASA liability side, they have to work like a universal bank. And that too, in the lending side also, we have a microfinance, which is another segment. So there are a lot of pulls and pressures from all sides, and I think it's going to take some time for the small finance banks to scale up. And obviously, I'll take that payment infrastructure to a bit stretched, and I'll say it's more of a digital journey. The small finance banks are in a good place in the sense, unlike as Aman said, the private banks are like old private banks have a legacy system, where the SMBs being a new startups, they have the leeway of starting with a clean slate and a better technology and upgraded technology. That really helps, no doubt about it. But I think in the scale up, the SMBs has some time to scale up, and it will take more resources and inputs to build it up. Payment system per se, I'll say, being from the transaction side and a payment business side, it is about digital journey, not only on the payment like UPI or anything, it's also about the digital experience in terms of lending. How do we expand it? I mean, that's the whole journey that we're talking about. The biggest, I think, as of SMBs are concerned, we are yet to explore to the extent the bigger universal banks would have done in terms of Web 2. We are still to exploit completely. I think that's the journey that we have to travel. Beyond that, probably the Web3 and the DPIs, exploitation of the DPIs and the, the crypto or blockchain technologies and all, which will help a lot. I think the biggest challenge where we face today is the fraud, the security, and then the identity. I think that's the biggest challenge as a banking system that we have. Be it the onboarding of the customer, that is your KYCs or lending business or a CASA business. That's where we lag. I mean, I think it was told, Prasanna said some time back that today we can, in fact, Mr. Joshi as well, that we can block the device today and going into the same. I think we need to get to a stage whereby we can block that rupee. And I think probably that where CBDC will come, once it's come, that we can trace that currency digitally. Today, the number rupee is in terms of number, 1, 2, 3. We can't trace it beyond a certain level. That's the layering helps. Easier said than done, I think, because question is of transparency. I mean, with the Web3 and we are talking about where it is more about depth and width of the control of the data will go wide and range, and people will have a control over that. But question is, how much are we ready to disclose? How much are we ready to transparent? Are we ready to be transparent enough? Are we ready to share our information with our consent, obviously? That's the question. Not everybody would like to be tracing that. I mean, when the CBDC first came up, there was a huge article in the paper that are we ready to? But that will help a lot in terms of saving the frauds that happens today, the social engineering frauds. So it's a fine balance, I think. It's a lot of collaboration everybody needs to do. The API sort of a thing, the DPIs that we spoke about, Mr. Joshi as well. We need to leverage that, and I think we need to use them to our own interest. And having a fine balance between the checks and balance in terms of how much are we ready to give to have a better security. I think that's the approach we have to take. If that is taken, I think a lot of issues in terms of security and concern will get addressed. I think we have scaled up quite a big at an international level. The volumes are huge. Today, almost 1/3 of the real-time settlement across the world is nothing but real-time settlements. And everybody wants to move from cash because of security and lag of like credit card payments or which are lags. So one, real-time payments and digital real experiences, metaverses, whatever we call it. I don't want to stretch that side because that's another long story and big subject. It's about fine balance. We have to take to secure, create more and more secure and trust in the system. That's the key to that whole journey. Thank you so much. Yeah, Mr. Ganesh.
Yeah, thank you, Chandan. That was good. So moving over from payments to see how payments will be taken care of in the loan side, because everybody needs money, and money is not only earnings. We do depend on borrowings as well, and that's nothing bad in that word. So taking over that, and finally rounding off with real-time payments. I don't know how many of you like real-time payments. We would all like real-time receipts, but not pay on real-time. But anyway, let's see how that is taken care of. From then on, I'll go to my leftist friend, Vasanth from CAMSPay. All of you must have, at some point in time when you do a digital transaction, moved your transaction through a payment aggregator. Here's a company which actually does the aggregation business. What's the future in this space is what Vasanth will give a future.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh. Good afternoon to all of you. It's always been great to come back to this platform. Banking Frontier has been many years, been part of this. Right from the word go today, I think like the tone Mr. Joshi set for the conference, and everything that is said so far, it's honestly, it resonates with what I believe and what is really happening in real time. I belong to a time and era where we used to, we imported ATMs from other countries to, getting satellites from Israel and so on and so forth. Looking from that point of view and what we are doing today is like we have come, a very, very long way. Tremendous changes, and fundamentally the way the payments are being done currently. I think many of us have shared the data points with the way the digital infrastructure that has been built in this country and how the transactions are happening. I think there are some estimates like, by 2027, we are going to be doing some close to 600 billion transactions. So there are different, staggering numbers that are facing us today. All this could not be delivered, and I honestly believe that we are in the best of the times and the worst of the times. Why I say that? Our friends here also pointed out saying that there are unprecedented levels of vulnerabilities that are happening due to the fact that we are an open infrastructure, open architecture that is there. It's extremely critical and important to see as we grow, leaps and bounds of transaction volume and the ability to pay and things like that. Today, please mind you, we are doing close to about 85% of real-time payments. This was like close to zero when you talk about a Sarkar, let's say 2000. Now 85 to 87% of transaction happening real-time. We have limited time in terms of capture all this, transaction the way it is happening on the fly. I fully agree with Mr. Ganesh on that, saying that how many of us really do understand this to the extent or really like the way things are panning out, but everything is going to happen in real time. In the ecosystem that we serve, I belong to the CAMS group, there are multiple places where we have the repositories of data. Today, from a payments point of view, what we are used to, typically the bank transfers and then the card-based payments. There are the two major flavors that all of us are used to. Today, everything is leaning towards data. Everything is going to be data-based, and no longer will we think about interfaces and messaging system and so on and so forth. We're moving towards everything which is data-oriented. So all of us may be familiar in terms of what is in play. There are DLT based options available, typically the ones that Prasanna mentioned about the blockchain and things like that. We are seeing all that is happening in real time. Are we really up to speed? Honestly, answer is no, but it is all work in progress. The way we see it is, I think we are among the largest aggregators of payments in the country. We serve mutual fund industry, capital markets, insurance, and lending ecosystems too. But we are slowly seeing a lot of real use cases beginning to happen, unravel. I'll take one quick example. I'll not name the client here, that's the pilot mode, but we're seeing very good results. The underlying technology being used is blockchain. What's happening with this large lender is they have about 250 million collections they need to do in a single month. In any term, any country of 1.4 billion population, but 250 million transaction collection to happen in a single month is an extremely staggering number. Today, what is happening is all this are done through various partner ecosystems that they have developed. And there are, let's say, some 10 to 20 aggregators. They go and collect all these payments. All this money has to come. And just imagine with the amount of transaction velocity and the volume of the money that is involved, there's a huge amount of risk that is hitting or potentially can hit the ecosystem. Now, all this is done in the batch mode, right? Even though we talk about real-time payments at one side, but the traditional industry, the lending industry, the enterprise level, okay, we are seeing all this, fancy numbers, I'm sorry to say that, but all at best P2P, and slowly we are looking at P2M transaction. There's a lot of ground that we need to cover from an in-store transaction point of view. All these are like all the, glimpses of what can come through in the future. But my own definition of how the future of the payments can look like is when everything becomes based on the digital assets that we will create, the infrastructure is put in place now. All the assets will slowly move into those infrastructure. Then the real-time transactions happen. Potentially all this can be done real-time. I would call this journey and not a destination. But the real success of seeing the future of the payments in this country, and we already achieved the status of being almost the number one in terms of the transaction processing in the world. We will show the world how things can be done, will be done. UPI is a great example, but it's a long road to go. But we are part of that exciting journey, and like I mentioned, there are many things that are work in progress. One quick takeaway, I think many of them already mentioned this, there is a real need for all the ecosystem to come together. Okay, as part of a business, we also are an account aggregator. But what happens is that I think the coming of regulators together, the coming of ecosystem, the coming of players, I think Prasanna only mentioned that, saying again, it's, collaboration is a new competition. So there's a lot of value that all of us can unlock. And with that, I would like to say that thing will more to the collaboration, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Vasanth. That was actually a good stock taking, a balance, where he actually concluded saying that there's a lot of work in progress. Yes, there's a lot of work in progress. And what is it that can be done to take this area forward? I'm sure you're going to get some more answers for that. And over to this, I'll now hand over the baton to Deepak. He is actually the person who has doing the linkage between the digital payment systems and the people. His initiatives are being actually seen by all of us. I'm sure at some point in time we have all had use of what his company or his services are. I don't want to reveal all those secrets, so I'll hand over to Deepak. What is it that he's doing now, and what is it that is planned for the future for all of us in India? Yes.
Thanks, sir. Ganeshji is right here, and I don't mind saying that there's a very interesting piece of ecosystem that we are living in, wherein the payment is owned by banks, but the innovation is done by Fintech. Now, that is the era that we are in, wherein, for banks, payments is services. But for Fintech, payments is business. Now, if this is the ecosystem that we are in, we are definitely going to see a lot of innovation expectations within the ecosystem, which needs to evolve. And that is where, if we bring in seamlessness, we see the future of payments. So let me bring it a very small transaction flow for all of you. So if I make a payment to Prasanna right now, it will go through a KYC process of one particular vendor. It will go through a transaction processing engine of a tech company. And then it will go through a reconciliation system of a third party. And then you will have a dispute resolution being done by someone else. And the control will be somewhere else. Imagine one transaction traveling through such a disintegrated ecosystem. And when I saw that slide from Prasanna, I really liked it, there was no, rather than real time. And is there a possibility to bring that integrated ecosystem? So more than seeing the type of product that we are looking at, or I would say the change in the instrument that we are talking about. I mean, you go from IMPS to UPI, or you go from UPI to CBDC. Or, now we are all talking about embedded payments. In fact, there is a discussion going on around IoT. So, there is so much discussions around the instrument. There is so much discussion around, the channel that we are adopting. But at the same time, if at all we continue to have this disintegrated ecosystem, the journey will still remain the same. It will not change. And if we are able to focus in those areas, banks, fintech, tech providers, and of course, blessings from regulator, all taken together, I think we are able to create a much stronger ecosystem from the learning that we have built over last 10, 15 years in UPI, IMPS, all that we have done globally and what we are being recognized for. So integrated ecosystem is all that I think is critical for the future of payments. And, that is where we have been working for quite a long. And whenever I talk to my team, I always tell them that question yourself whether payment is an independent instrument. You buy a service, you buy a product, you pay in emergency, non-emergency, you pay through a mobile app, internet, whatever it may be. Payment can never be an independent instrument. It is embedded into the service or the product that you're buying. The day you're able to solve this puzzle, the day you're able to embed this into that particular service or a product or the ecosystem, you find the future of the payment. I mean, let's not think about payment as a separate instrument altogether. So this is something that we think about. This is something that I believe, is the railroad that we should all be working on. That's from my side, Ganeshji.
Thanks a lot, Deepak. That was good. Now, Deepak had actually given a small hint. He's actually transferred some money to Prasanna during the course of the talk. And since it is an embedded payment, it's already been received. And although Prasanna doesn't confirm it, since I'm the reconciliation guy, I'm saying he's got the money. Now, whether he wants to raise a dispute or not, that's a separate point. Maybe Manoj can try to help me out. But jokes apart, I've tried to give a little bit of peek into what is going to be the future. We have heard Prasanna about the spark that he has actually spoken. Maybe we will just round this off with what he's actually going to say as the future of payments. And after that, I'll bore you for 2 minutes and then we'll close off.
Yeah, I think thank you. And I think a lot of good views. When I joined bank back in 2014, I thought I'll be going in the morning 9 o'clock and come back in the evening by 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. That's the job was there for banks, typical banks. And earlier I used to serve almost all banks as a part of a service provider or as a technical architect, where we have built almost all systems from scratch, while card management, transactions, POS, ATMs and all. And when I joined the bank, that was the time we have seen, at least in Indian context, how fintechs or UPI or DPIs started building a lot of business models. Fintechs knocking the door of the banks to open up those APIs. So the norms have changed from traditional to mobile banking to the digital or fintech-led, a lot of business model, which our friend spoke all about. And while we do this, internet has become cheaper with the Jio, and that's how, at least Indian context, we have seen customer shift has happened. And at the same time, within a bank also, we have seen how the shift of leadership has happened. The MDs or CEOs who were not aware of what is API or what is meant by open banking or enterprise service bus. I think most of the business folks has learned this new literature of a new future of finance. I think there are typical roles or typical departments within a banks, so-called fintech or partnership or strategic partnership and so on, which were not existing 20 years before. 20 years was like a branch model was the only primary channel, but now that primary channel has multifold, like mobile, internet, fintech has come up with the open banking. I think when you talk about today, and when we say so happily today, we are part of that open economy, open data or open API, we have UPI or account aggregator, ONDC is coming up. Look at the last 10, 15 years and start thinking what is going to happen in the next 10, 15 years. So whoever will imagine it well, they will supersede as a bank or as a fintech or some other kind of entity RBI will launch. This is only for that banking, device banking or something like that, right? So I think, and there will be, I think it's in a nutshell, future of finance is driven by people. People could be internal people or could be external people, customers who are demanding. And there are different generations, traditional to the millennials to the, I think at least 6 generations are there in 2024. And all these generations look for money and how they really want to do the better financial inclusion. While there is a gap, we spoke in my deck also. But I think the way we look at the customer is changing, futuristic models are coming. And I think that's how the railroads which will drive the future of finance. I think CBDC, where paper money is getting into plastic money as a card or your wallet kind of a money. Now distribution of money will not be paper, it will be digital. That's I think foundational change which we are going to see in many of those 100+ countries, including India. I think India is a little bit late, but the way we have DPI railroads already ready, we will supersede. That's why we announced in 2022 February, we are going to come up. And September, I think at the end of a year, we started pilots. 16 banks are there and we'll move on. And other angle, which is Vasanth sir spoke about digital assets or tokenization, while real-time payment is happening peer-to-peer, peer-to-merchant. How do that transaction of buying, selling some deed or doing some of those transactions where it takes a lot of time, buying a land or any of those transactions, how do we bring that ecosystem on as a digital twin and do those digital transactions? That's how that imagination will change the customer behavior, many more the financial products which we carry today, which will change. And that's how we will see how future of finance will be done. In a nutshell, we have seen lot of things on a front side, which is on mobile or internet and all. But the way we see last 5-6 years, how regulations are coming. Regulations are coming in mid and back. They talk about data security, they talk about audits, they talk about how do we really take care of those transactions at the end of the day, how do we reconciliation, how do we give that money with the right risk scoring. So while it is very easy to do some kind of invisible banking, maybe tomorrow is coming, or metaverse banking, which some of the banks, UBI and PNB has done. But lot of future of finance will lie in how are we doing automations in the mid journey, which is API to microservices and better infrastructure. Maybe today some customer will call and say this is down. Then we'll start searching why it was down, because of which API or because of which component. But I think that is how now many of those futuristic banking are now going on, maybe APM kind of a tools or some more other kind of, I think and in the back, how do we bring that data intelligence? How do we bring on that firewall protection or your territory protection? So I think at all 3 levels, I would say on front level it's easy, but it will be pumped by how much innovations we will do in the mid and back. And we will see many more roles coming into mid and back, data scientist, cybersecurity specialist, and all of that. So I think in a nutshell, I would like to just summarize right kind of a people, leadership, new roles, reskilling, which processes you are going to automate, which will do the better banking tomorrow, adoption of newest technologies while existing technology should be norm for that company. And whatever we do, it should be aligned with the right regulations, talking with the customers, seeking their feedback and improving. I think that will drive, in a nutshell, any of those transformations. Yeah.
Right, Prasanna, you've spoken about 359 degree points out of 360, which is that 1 degree point. Maybe I'll do one thing. I'll make a small case study now. It tells me 21 seconds, maybe I'll take 40 seconds. Imagine this scenario, and this is a real life project going on right now under the aegis of RBI. Some of you who are in this room are part of it. This is a young person. He wants to buy the next version of iPhone, i17, which has been released. So he's got a special invite. He logs on to Amazon.com. I'm assuming it's available in Amazon.com. The moment he logs on, it validates him. Let's assume I am doing it, and I'm going to assume I'm this young 25-year-old guy. I want to actually go back in time machine. So as soon as I log in, it says, this is Ganeshkumar. He has got this iPhone. Let's say the cost of this is 1,20,000 rupees. So 1,20,000 rupees, I go through the features, and once my eye signal says, there is already a signal which goes through my iris, goes to that camera which is there on the device which I'm using, let's assume it's an iPad, and then I get it. The moment I say yes, the iris size says whether I want to buy it or not. And the moment it says yes, I'm going to buy it, there is a message which has gone onto the system to Amazon.com which says, okay, Ganesh wants this box. It goes to the distributor of iPhone, says yes, ship this iPhone to Ganesh. Why will he ship it unless he's got the money, embedded money? So the moment that is there, a message goes to Ganesh's digital wallet which says whether he has got 1,20,000, no, he's got only 80,000 rupees. There's another message which goes to his loan service provider. He's got possibly 20 people. 2 of them find that he has not paid his past monies properly, so they say no loan for you. One person says, okay, your creditworthiness is okay. I've checked with CRISIL, it is okay, or CARE. They say, yes, it is okay. The moment that is okay, he says, okay, you need a bridge capping of 40,000 rupees. 40,000 rupees is sanctioned to Ganesh. The moment the 40,000 is sanctioned, 1,20,000, a reconciliation happens, goes to Amazon. Amazon says yes. All this happens within a fraction of a picosecond, and Ganesh gets a message saying your iPhone is going to be delivered tomorrow. Delivery is your partner. You're going to get the machine. This is the future of the payments. I'm not talking science fiction. There is a pilot already going on, not in Amazon, but it's happening in some other real life scenario which is there. For people in Mumbai, it may not be very valid, but for other people, this is for gas cylinder refills for houses. The project is on, and if it works, and I have no doubt why it should not work. And later on, you will find India is much into a new trajectory of payments. I will stop my bhashan here. Thanks to all my fellow panelists. I hope we have kindled you. A lot of people are there, and that's the future. Thank you very much.